Right, hi there, this is just a quick tutorial on how we use elements from GIMP and bring them into another piece of software called Inkscape to make slightly more dynamic graphics like logos, for example, or web icons, just anything that might require a little bit of detail. Right, what we're going to do is we're just going to use this example here. I'm going to show you how to create this generic logo. It doesn't necessarily mean anything in particular, but it goes through a number of different tools that will give you a good introduction on how to create your own version. Right, the first thing I do is I use GIMP, so just open myself a new document, and I've opened one at 1200 in width by 900 in height. I recently downloaded a series of different paintbrushes from DeviantArt, which were the splatter brushes. So I'm just going to use one of those and get that into Inkscape and begin glossing it up. Right, first thing I do is I just go to the paintbrush tool in the left hand toolbar and select which type of style of brush that I want to use. I'm just going to use this bottom one. What you might find when you first start using the paintbrush tool in GIMP is that the paintbrush is really small. So mine's quite big at the moment, but that's because I've actually altered the height, the size of the actual brush. So the way we do that is you've got your layers tab here. If you just click this third one along, which looks like a kind of sort of light switch on a wall, that gives you all your options for the actual tool. Now I've increased mine to 495. But you can alter the size by bringing it left to make it small and right by just holding down and pulling either side so that it actually activates the variant. Right, so I've got it 535, and then all I then do is go back to my layers tab so I can see what I'm working on. I'm going to create a new tab which I'm going to call Splat. Good practice is to give your layers a name every time. You can get into a sort of lazy habit of just giving it a no layer name, but it does help to give it a name. So I'm just going to call it Splat, and then all I'm going to do is make sure that obviously it's not the same colour as the background, so it's black, and I'm just going to go like so. Now there's my brush print. Now I need to get it into Inkscape. And this is going to be the end result here, so I'm very quickly just going to delete that and get rid of everything there. And the way I get it into Inkscape is really easy. Just go to your select tool at the top, pull down over the actual graphic, go to edit and copy, and very simply paste it into Inkscape. So edit and paste, and there is your graphic. Now at the moment it's obviously transparent, but what we can't do is change any of the colours of it because it's effectively just a sort of static image, and what we want to be able to do is obviously glitz it up. So the way I do that is I select the actual layer so that you've got all your arrows around it, go to path at the top and trace bitmap. This will bring up a dialog box which gives you an opportunity to be able to select the settings for your trace, because what we're going to do is basically vectorize this particular sort of static image. Just hit update so you get an idea of what it's going to look like. So there's your preview, and then hit OK. Now you'll notice that it will go a little bit sort of fuzzier than the original, which will tell you that it's actually happened. And if you pull that aside, your vector's on the top, and we'll just get rid of the one on the bottom. Now if I select this particular trace, right click and ungroup, it gives me an opportunity to then take away any like the white background, or if there's any messy elements to it, to make it a little tidier. In actual fact, the trace comes out in several layers, so you may just want to pick one of them, just find the best one that you think works for you. So I'm just going to use this one at the bottom, and there is essentially my graphic. Now what I can now do to it is change it to any colour I want. I'm just going to pick that colour there for now. I'm going to drop a gradient through it by creating an edit and gradient. So I'm just going to hold down my left button, pull down, and that puts a gradient through it, which allows me to be able to select colours for the bottom by clicking the circle. So I can pick a gradient for the bottom of it, and I can also pick a colour for the top. So if I wanted to make it sort of light green or whatever I wish. So I'm just going to choose a slightly darker grey, so I've got this going on. So it's going to be a slightly different version to the one I did originally. I'm going to select it, I'm going to duplicate it so that I've got an exact replica that's sitting on the top. And to prove that, I'm just going to change the colour of it and go page down, and you'll see there's the original one. If I hit page up on my keyboard, it brings it back. I'm going to hit Control and 0, and that's going to make it offset a little bit so I can give it a bit of a background, and then I'm going to do page down again, so that's given it now a background, which gives it a slight sort of, it will stand out against any black backgrounds that I choose to put it on. Right, I want to give it a little bit more of a sort of embossed feeling, so I'm going to select the top layer, go to Filters, Shadows and Glow, and Drop Shadow, and hit Apply. Now that should obviously bring that up a little bit further. Now if I hit Shift and plus, which is at the end of the numbers key, numbers row on the keypad, I can see that there's now a shadow. I'm just going to minus out so I can see that. Now I'm going to flash that up a little bit more, and I'm going to put a white outline around the top layer. And the way I do that is I select the top layer and hit this paintbrush tool, which is down here at the bottom. That gives up all my fill options, my stroke paint options, which we're going to play with, and how wide you want the stroke once you've added it. If I hit this box here, it puts a white line around it because I've already got it set. But what you can do is hit, using hex codes, hit 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and make sure that there's two F's on the end, and that will turn it to black. But I want it to be white, so I'm just going to go FF, 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 and that will make that outline white. Right, so that's that sorted. I can, if I want to, increase or decrease the line width to make it, say, slightly more thicker or thinner. It's up to me. And I can also change the style of the lines here. So if I hit, say, a dashed line style, which I quite like actually. Right, so that's the sort of initial graphic I've got set up. I could even make it a little bit more appealing by giving it a really dark background. Increase the opacity, which is currently at 20%, to 100. Hit OK. So that's now got a nice sort of disc on it. Now that automatically, because you've already created a stroke paint option for the first shape you created, it will apply it to every shape you go on to create. So if you want to get rid of it, you think, no, I don't want the dashed line on that oval, go to stroke paint and just hit the cross, and that will take the line off of it. And then all I'm going to do is just go to page down and page down again, and I'm just going to reposition that so it's sat just behind the back layer neatly. I'm going to drop a shadow on that also, hit OK, and now I've got sort of the background disc for a logo. I'm just going to go to my text tool here to put my words in. I've already got my text set up, but you can obviously change it to anything you want it to be. If you wanted something, say, slightly more urban, we could just go to, I'm going to use graffiti, and I'm just going to go splat, and place that on the top there. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger for proportion reasons, and then I'm going to change the colour to a luminous yellow. Now at the moment that doesn't look particularly, it looks a little plain, so I'm just going to again hit Control and D to duplicate it, and then Control 0 a couple of times, and I'm just going to add another background to that too, so that looks a little bit better. I could even give it a bit more of a spray painty effect and drop a shadow through it. So dark green at the bottom, hit the square at the top, and I'm just going to make that even lighter. Right, there we go. You could also, I mean, this is just an additional thing, is if you hit page down, select the top word, and then hit this back layer, and if you've got your stroke dialog box up, you can hit the blur tool, and that will give it even more of a sort of spray painty effect. Don't go too far, because obviously you won't be able to see it at all, but if I bring it down to about there and then go page down, oh, excuse me, so click off of it first, and then select that, close your dialog box and go page down. That then puts it behind the original word. And then once we've got that, I can select all of it, go File, Export Bitmap. I've got it at 300 dpi. I'm just going to bring the resolution down a little bit further so it doesn't take too long. Make sure it's selected. I'm going to browse, use my desktop, and I'm just going to call it Splat2. Hit Save, Export, and if I go now to my desktop and open that up, there we are, we've got some kind of urban splattish logo design done using GIMP and Inkscape.